Unmasking Prejudice. Chief Marcus Collins' undercover stand. It was a foggy, overcast morning in Savannah, Georgia. The humid air, heavy with mist, draped the historic cobblestone streets in a veil of mystery and melancholy. In this city, renowned for its rich history and southern charm, an unanticipated storm was brewing, not in the skies, but within the walls of the Savannah Police Department. Chief Marcus Collins had recently been appointed as the head of the department. Over the past few months, rumors of misconduct and subtle biases had festered beneath the surface. Determined to bring about a genuine transformation, Collins devised a radical plan. He would go undercover. By shedding his authoritative uniform and adopting a nondescript appearance, he intended to witness firsthand the true dynamics within his ranks, without the protective halo of his badge or the weight of his reputation. That Tuesday morning, as the city stirred under a blanket of fog, Collins left his official cruiser behind. Instead, he drove a modest sedan to the precinct's parking lot. Dressed in a worn gray t-shirt, faded jeans, and scuffed sneakers, with a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, he transformed himself into just another officer. Every detail of his disguise was meticulously chosen to deflate the image of the decorated chief he once was, a man who had spent over 2 decades rising through the ranks. Stepping through the side entrance of the precinct, Collins was greeted by the sterile hum of fluorescent lights and the quiet buzz of computers. The corridors, adorned with framed commendations and faded photographs of past heroes, whispered tales of honor and tradition. Yet beneath this storied veneer, Collins sensed a murmur of discontent, a culture marred by unspoken prejudices and an overemphasis on appearances. For the first hour, no one paid him any mind. He moved through the building with quiet determination, absorbing every detail of the everyday interactions around him. Then, in the cramped diner-like break room, a space with scuffed linoleum floors, mismatched chairs, and the pervasive aroma of stale coffee, his carefully orchestrated experiment took an unforeseen turn. In the break room, where a few officers gathered during their brief respite, Officer Daniel Price emerged. Price, a white officer notorious for his sharp tongue and air of superiority, advanced with a smug grin. His eyes, cold and dismissive, fixed on Collins as he stepped into the room. Without warning, Price spat directly in Collins' face, a gesture that struck with brutal immediacy. Time itself seemed to slow as the warm spit dripped down Collins' cheek. The room, normally filled with mundane chatter and the clatter of dishes, fell into an eerie, oppressive silence. Collins, though seething with indignation inside, maintained a remarkable composure. He reached calmly into his jacket pocket, produced a folded handkerchief, and wiped the spit from his face. In a voice that was both calm and resolute, he addressed the stunned room. "I'd like to speak with your manager." His words, uttered without an ounce of anger, resonated in the heavy silence that followed. At that moment, the break room transformed into a microcosm of a much larger problem, a single act of disrespect that revealed the deeply entrenched biases lurking within the department. News of the incident spread like wildfire through the precinct's hallways. By mid-morning, the main conference room was abuzz with murmurs. The room itself was a testament to the department's storied past. Long polished wooden tables, walls lined with faded photographs of decorated officers, and inspirational posters that once buoyed morale. Today, however, an undercurrent of tension and expectation filled the air. Captain Harold Jenkins, a veteran officer with graying hair and a voice that commanded respect, rose to speak. "Today we begin a new chapter in how we serve and protect our community," he announced gravely, his words carrying the weight of years of experience. All eyes in the room turned toward the entrance, and then with quiet determination, Chief Marcus Collins, no longer in disguise, stepped into the conference room. His transformation was as dramatic as it was symbolic. The man who had covertly observed his department was now revealed, his eyes reflecting both resolve and the deep sorrow of betrayal. Collins walked slowly to the podium, his measured steps echoing in the hushed room. As he began to speak, his voice was clear, steady, and imbued with quiet authority. "I came here this morning not to command from behind a badge, but to see our department as it truly is," he declared. "When I was denied service, when I was treated as if I were nothing more than an imposter, I saw not only my own pain but the reflection of a culture that values appearances over genuine integrity." A profound silence fell over the room. Every officer was forced to confront their own behaviors and the culture they had collectively nurtured. Collins continued, his tone softening yet never losing its firmness. "Our duty extends beyond enforcing the law. It is to embody respect, dignity, and empathy. Today marks the beginning of a change. We will no longer allow bias and cruelty to hide behind authority. Change will not be imposed, it must be earned by honoring the trust placed in us by the community. At that moment, Officer Price's earlier bravado dissolved. His face, once flush with defiant pride, now betrayed deep shame and regret. Whispers of apology and quiet nods of understanding began to ripple through the conference room, as if the very air was absorbing the weight of Collins' words. Over the following weeks, Chief Collins' bold move set off a cascade of changes within the Savannah Police Department. Mandatory sensitivity training sessions replaced routine briefings, and open forums were instituted, giving every officer a platform to confront and discuss their own biases. Slowly, the old culture, steeped in fear, prejudice, and a rigid hierarchy, began to give way to a new environment founded on empathy, accountability, and mutual respect. One crisp autumn afternoon, during a community town hall held at a renovated civic center, a young resident, eyes alight with cautious hope, asked, "Chief, do you really believe we can change how we treat each other?" With a gentle smile that belied the hard-fought battles behind his words, Collins replied, "True change begins with listening, recognizing that every individual deserves dignity regardless of appearances. Today, I learned an invaluable lesson about respect, and it's a lesson we all must embrace." His words ignited a spark of hope, prompting widespread discussions on empathy and the importance of looking beyond the surface. Not everyone within the department was immediately receptive. Officer Price, whose initial act of disrespect had ignited the upheaval, continued to struggle with the weight of his actions. In a quiet, private conversation later, Price confessed to Collins, "I thought it was just a way to prove something, to show that a man like you wouldn't be taken seriously." Collins, his eyes softening with a blend of disappointment and compassion, replied, "Our duty is to serve with honor and humanity. We are more than just our titles or appearances. I expect you to learn from this and become the officer our community deserves." That conversation marked the beginning of Price's gradual transformation, a painful yet necessary reckoning with his own biases. As months turned into a year, the ripple effects of Chief Collins' confrontation became increasingly evident. The precinct began to evolve, officers started engaging in honest dialogue about implicit biases, and internal training sessions emphasized the importance of empathy and community engagement. The once rigid judgmental atmosphere slowly transformed into one of genuine camaraderie and self-reflection. At a subsequent community event in Savannah, a town hall that brought together residents, local leaders, and members of the police force, a memorable exchange took place. A young woman, her voice trembling with both apprehension and hope, asked, "Chief, do you really think we can change how we treat each other?" Collins knelt down to meet her gaze and replied softly, "Change is not instantaneous, but it begins with understanding. Every act of kindness, every moment of sincere listening, brings us closer to a future where we value one another for who we truly are." The room, once filled with skepticism, now resonated with the possibility of a better tomorrow. Through it all, Chief Collins continued to walk the halls of the Savannah Police Department daily, greeting officers with a steady hand and a kind word. His presence was a constant reminder of the promise he had made that foggy morning, to transform a culture steeped in prejudice and to rebuild trust, not just within his department, but in the community as well. In the corridors of the precinct, old habits slowly gave way to new attitudes. Private conversations revealed officers reflecting on past actions and vowing to treat every individual with the respect they deserved. Even those who had once scoffed at his undercover experiment began to acknowledge its necessity. The department's gradual metamorphosis was a testament to the power of one man's courage to challenge the status quo and ignite a movement for genuine change. One winter morning, as Savannah awoke under a clear, pale sky, Chief Collins stood outside the police headquarters. The city, with its moss-draped oaks and historic charm, seemed to breathe a new rhythm, a rhythm of hope and resilience. In that moment, Collins reflected on the journey, the bitter taste of disrespect, the painful confrontation, and the slow, uncertain steps toward rebuilding a culture of empathy and dignity. His transformation of the department was not complete, and he knew there would always be challenges ahead. But in that new dawn, as he observed his officers engaging in respectful dialogue and community outreach, Collins felt a profound sense of purpose. He had proven that true leadership is measured not by the power of one's badge, but by the ability to listen, to learn, and to inspire change from within. And so, in the heart of Savannah, Georgia, beneath the weight of history and the promise of a new future, Chief Marcus Collins' Undercover stand against prejudice became more than just an experiment, it became a turning point. A turning point that redefined the values of a police department and reminded an entire community that the essence of humanity lies in our capacity for empathy, respect, and unwavering courage to confront our own biases.